For me, a key understanding of the means of grace is just the words we used. They are means of grace, they are not means to grace. There are so many Christians who use the Christian disciplines, whether we're talking about prayer or scripture reading or fellowship with believers, and the communion time that we have, the sacraments, all those things that go into our fellowship with one another and with God. And we often think of those particular elements as being some form of barter with God. You know, I'll do this terrible thing. I'll read the Bible regularly and suffer through that so that God will be nice to me and the ogre in the sky won't hurt me. Now, that may sound impossible, but just listen to the way we talk to each other sometimes. Oh, I knew it was going to be a terrible day. I didn't have a long enough quiet time. In which case we were evaluating the terrible things that happened or even the hardships of the day as God getting His pound of flesh out of us because we didn't do our spiritual disciplines right. Well, God isn't going to get His pound of flesh out of us. His wrath was poured out on Christ completely for my past sin, my present sin, my future sin. There is no more getting pound of flesh out of me. Anything that happens now is for God's glory and for my good. And so the spiritual disciplines are not somehow manufacturing grace. I'll pay God enough of this bad stuff that I don't really like, or this discipline that I've got to go through in order that He'll be nice to me. I sometimes use the example of those who run marathons, and no matter who you are, you get to about mile 21, 22, you're going to open your mouth and start taking in some air. And you don't think when you open your mouth that you're manufacturing oxygen. I mean, you're taking in the oxygen that's already there. And when we are participating in the means of grace, whether it's scripture reading, where we're hearing what God has said, communing with God in prayer, where we're developing that close relationship, when we're communing with other believers, being built up by them as well as building them up, we are not manufacturing God's grace by doing that. Rather, we are feasting upon the grace that is already present, already been made available by Him. And when I'm using Christian disciplines that way, not manufacturing God's approval, but rather I'm understanding how great is His grace toward me, then something that we've already talked about begins to build in me, and that is joy. And the joy of the Lord becomes my strength. As I read the Scriptures, as I pray with God, as I commune with God's people, not just joy, but greater love for Him. And it's that love for Him that's based upon His love for me. We love because He first loved us. That's what my Christian disciplines are about, not manufacturing grace, but feasting upon it, taking it in, that I am understanding more of His ways, His Word, and His heart. And the consequence is my love for Him grows. As my love for Him grows, so does my willingness to serve, my desire to serve, my love to serve. It becomes my highest and greatest priority, not because I'm manufacturing His grace, but because the means of grace are reminding me, feeding me, helping me understand how great is His love for me. And so my life now is a response of love, not some sort of barter or bribe to make Him love me. If what you do in your Christian disciplines is you think you're bribing God to be nice to you, you may think you're doing a good thing. You're actually doing an awful thing. Christ is the affection of God spent in our behalf. To now think that we have to add to that is to say that the cross is not sufficient. When we are participating in the means of grace, simply to drink in the goodness, the greatness of God in our behalf, then what we're doing is we're truly honoring Him. Old rubric of preachers is the right things for the wrong reasons are wrong. And you can read Scripture and you can pray and you can go to church all so that God will be nice to you, to bribe Him, to somehow plug the celestial vending machine in the sky with enough nickels of your obedience that He'll do nice things for you. If that's why you're doing it, you're actually making God and Satan trade places. God says, I'm fully paid. Christ paid it all. Now I want you to know how great is my love for you so that you delight to walk with me. And the Christian disciplines are about building that kind of love in us rather than paying for His love for me today.